Remember the other day when we said Texas A&M's 2025 cornerback recruiting class was elite? Well, this weekend, it got better.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. And it should have been, because the Aggies landed an elite corner prospect in the 2025 class. That is right. Adonis Currie decided he wants to play for Mike Elko and the Texas A&M Aggies. And we're going to talk about who Curry is as a player. But ladies and gentlemen, what Mike Elko is doing with his cornerback room is insane. And it's so funny because whatever day it was that Kobe Sellers committed, I think it was last weekend. I think it was my Monday show. Might have been whenever it was. It was within the last week and a half. Whenever he committed, I remember sitting here going, man, Coach Elko was putting together an elite cornerback class, and he was then. Oh, okay. Well, how about let's add a top 50 player? Are you kidding me? So Adonis Currie, 6'1", 170-pound corner from Lancaster, California kid, West Coast kid, ranked as the 42nd best player on 24/7 Sports rankings. Once again, I always talk about how those are the rankings that I trust the most. So when I see a player ranked top 50 on their rankings, I go, wow. Curry is now the second highest ranked player in Texas A&M's class, only behind the quarterback of the class, Hassan Longstreet. And, you now have four, including Curry, four top 250 cornerback commits. I think there's a legitimate chance that this ends up being the best cornerback class in all of college football this year. I mean, four top 250 corners is insane. Insane. It's just, so, you got Sellers ranked 134th in the rankings. You got Jamar Bill Goins ranked 181st in the class. And then you got John Petaway ranked 244th in the class. Four top 250 corners in the entire recruiting class. That is insane. And the best part about it is, we talked about this, corner. Well, it's funny. It's a huge question mark for this year's football team. Now, according to On3, we talked about this last week, they think Texas A&M could have a top 10 cornerback room. And I still think that'd be a little bit crazy, just based on the fact that you got a lot of moving pieces in that room. You got a lot of transfers, a lot of guys who we think are going to be good, but we don't know. Maybe we haven't seen them play a ton of college football. Maybe they had some struggles last year. We're hoping they're better this year. Whatever it is, there's a different reason for every one of these transfer corners. But, I mean, this position group was a question mark. It was a question mark for the coaching staff. And they said, well, you know what? Let's just patch it up for the future, get four top 250 guys. That is elite recruiting. Taking care of business at a position group, locking down the future to where you have a lockdown secondary. You have got to love this. I mean, I think Texas A&M is going to have an elite defense for as long as Coach Elko is the coach here. If you're recruiting players like this, and I always have thought he's had a real keen eye for talent in the portal, which hopefully he does there too, but recruiting wise. And now, talking about a player ranked 42nd, it's not hard to be like, I think he's pretty good. But like some of these guys like Petaway ranked 244th, which once again, 244th, we're talking about a 4-star, a high 4-star. But I've always thought Coach Elko does a good job recruiting high-level talent that ends up being as good as it's supposed to be. Not, well, he was a 5-star, but he didn't really pan out. I think Coach Elko is going to do a good job the guys he's recruiting aren't going to be busts very often. It's obviously going to happen some. That's just part of the game, but I don't think it's going to happen as much as we've seen in the past. But so let's read the little bio on Curry here from Greg Biggins. He's a national recruiting expert over at 24/7 Sports. He says Curry is a fast rising corner prospect who made a big jump in the updated top 24/7 in May, top 247 in May. He's a top 50 prospect nationally with a very high ceiling. He has an ideal corner frame at 6'1", 170 pounds, and is one of the more explosive athletes in the country. He's a standout in track and has clocked personal bests of 10.52 100 meters and 21.07 200 meters. His skill set as a cover corner is coming along nicely, and he has made huge strides over the last year. He looks more natural in coverage and playing with a more physical edge as well. He's a two-way player and also sees time at receiver, which is a benefit on the defensive side of the ball. His ball skills and ball awareness have improved drastically, and he looks more instinctive and natural. He can play press or off coverage and has the speed to open up and run with anyone. He's still scratching the surface of how good we think he can be, but he definitely has an NFL upside to him if he reaches his full potential at the college level. So I love players like that. I love he's not playing his best football yet. He's not playing his best ball right now. He's still got a long way to go. He's got a long way to develop. He's got a lot of ways to get better. Those are the players that always excite me because, they haven't peaked to what they're going to be. We don't know what they're going to end up turning into, but they have yet to peak when it comes to an athlete, a football player. And I think that's really exciting. We haven't seen the best of Curry yet. He's going to get better and better and better and develop and get stronger and get faster than he already is and get in the weight room, and he's going to be an absolute star. You watch the tape on him. The first thing, and Biggins says it here, the first thing he talks about, which is the, ball hawk, balls in the air. The first 2 minutes of his highlight reel from this year, from his junior season, he is just absolutely elite when the football's in the air. And it's great to see that from a corner, safety, you hear the term ball hawk a lot, but corner, when the ball's in the air, Curry finds it, gets to it, catches it, and goes. It looks like he has okay hands for a corner because he plays receiver. Once again, they always joke, well, why are you a corner? Well, because I can't catch. That's the running joke about corners. But Curry can catch, plays receiver as well. And as Biggins said, and I say here all the time at Locked On Aggies, playing the other side of the ball, whatever position it is so huge. Who was the corners? Wasn't there a corner that played? Whatever. The point is, I love it when defensive players play offense, offensive players play defense. It gives you a feel for what is happening on the other side, on the flip side of the coin, on the other side of it. With Curry playing receiver, he knows what it looks like when receivers run routes. He knows what it's supposed to look like when, oh man, he's running the slant. Oh, he's going to run a post. Oh, he's running a go ball, whatever. Whatever he's running, he's going to be able to address it just based on the fact that he plays receiver. He can, get a vibe, and he's not always able to guess a route based on the first few strides, but it'll help. It doesn't hurt. And that's kind of my argument. So Curry, great with the football in the air, fast, track speed, going to be a guy that I still think, like here, is a little raw. He's getting better and better year to year, but he's not played his best football. He's learning, he's developing, and he's going to be an absolute star for the Aggies, an absolute star in college football. And I cannot wait to see what he is able to do this year, because I think he's going to be an absolute, when he gets on campus, not this year, he's going to be an absolute monster. So Adonis Curry commits to the Aggies over the weekend, top 50 recruit in the 2025 class, 6'1", 170-pound corner. Texas A&M's corner class for 2025 is elite, could be one of the best in college football. Coach Elko has done an incredible job of fixing what we believe to be a problem for this year's roster, and that is very exciting. So we need to talk a little bit about an article from Blake Topmeyer of USA Today about what are the Aggies' chances of making the college football playoff in its first year. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our wonderful friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So, article from Blake Topmeyer of USA Today, and it was an interesting one. He talks about the SEC when it comes to making the college football playoff, and he had this to say. The SEC realistically could qualify as many as 5 teams, but which 5? I'll offer 9 playoff hopefuls. Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. Schedules will influence qualification, to wit, I have Alabama in the top 4 of my SEC power rankings, but the Crimson Tide face a rugged schedule in contrast. Missouri and Tennessee will enjoy 2 of the easiest schedules, boosting their playoff hopes. Even a team like Kentucky could masquerade as a playoff contender into November. So many SEC playoff contenders with just 4 or 5 spots available will protect the concept of nearly every game mattering in this conference. The outcome of Alabama-Tennessee or Alabama-LSU could determine the final playoff spot. Playoff contention could be on the line when Texas and Oklahoma and Texas A&M meet. He then goes on to predict who he believes will get in for the SEC, and he does not believe the Aggies will get in. He says, the SEC gets 5. This is where I struggle in March. I embraced Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, and Missouri as playoff qualifiers. I anointed Missouri partly because of its favorable schedule. However, the Tigers must play at Alabama, and I don't see Missouri qualifying over Alabama if the Tigers lose in Tuscaloosa. So I'm pivoting to Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, and Alabama qualifying from the SEC. Maybe I've become an even bigger believer in Kalen DeBoer, or maybe Conley's analytics convinced me that I previously undervalued the Tide. So, interesting article from him. He obviously also gave the contenders and the who he believes can make the playoff from the other conferences, but we do not care about other conferences here at Locked On Aggies. And breaking this down, I think this is really fair, and I think that this is what I like seeing a national beat writer for a very, very important, publication talking about what I've kind of been saying here on this show, which is there is an outside chance that Texas A&M in year 1 under Mike Elko can make the playoff. If I had to put a percentage chance on it, it would be less than 10. It'd probably be around 5 or less. It's not high. It is not high. But in college sports, we have seen much crazier things happen. And, the route to the playoff is what's going to be really interesting. So, it would take you obviously, could you get there with 9 wins? I think it would be I'm barely not saying no. I think that there ends up maybe a team sneaks in with 9 wins, maybe. And if anything, it'd be an SEC team just based on, schedules and power of schedules and all that. So I talked about this a long time ago. Like, could you get in with 9 wins? and it was based off last year's final, college football playoff rankings. And there was I think there was either one or two teams that were 9-3 were top 12 teams, or there were two or three teams that were ranked 13, 14, 15 that were 9-3, whatever it was. I'll have to look back at that, but it says a lot. It would be hard to get in with 9 wins, but I would say there's a couple percent chance, not a high percent chance, a couple percent chance, a low percentage chance. So, the route to making the playoff, to me, is quite frankly pretty simple. I think that you would have to go 2-2 in the Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU, Texas. You have to go 2-2 in those games, and you have to win every other game. I think that is your route. That is your route to the college football playoff. Is that easy? No. Is it nice that all of those tough games are at home in front of your home crowd? 150 million% that is true. So, when I look at this, I quickly say to myself, you got to find a way to go 2-2 in those football games if you want to have a chance. And I'll tell you this, and I think this is a bold take. I am a lot less worried about Texas A&M going 2-2 in those 4 games than I am Texas A&M going 2-0 on the road at Florida and at Auburn. I think that those games, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, this week on Friday's episode, Zach Blackerby, the host of Locked On Auburn, he is out of town. It was him and his wife's anniversary, and they're in the Bahamas. So he recorded some shows. Him and I recorded the show for Friday, and it was a really good episode. And breaking down this game, the importance of this game, some of the Easter eggs between the teams of DJ Durkin and Isaiah Rakes and all these different players. So it was a fun episode, and it was funny because after we were done, Zach and I both joked man, we could have recorded for 2 hours talking about this game. So that'll be Friday's show. But these games, those 2 games, I'm going to be honest with you, road games terrify me. I think they terrify every fan. Playing away from Kyle Field is scary. And the Aggies are going to have to play away from Kyle Field against a Florida team who I am not a believer in. I think that the wheels are going to come off. I mean, they're getting sued by players now. I think the wheels are coming off there. But I still do think they have some talent. I don't believe Napier's a great coach, but they have talent. And I think that there's a world where they can win a couple games. And when you look at their schedule, I mean, this might be one of their most winnable games in the SEC, and that's saying a lot because I think Texas A&M is going to be a really good football team. So they're going to want this one. They're going to need this one bad. But, I mean, I think that going 2-2 in those 4 games at Kyle Field, I think it's going to be a little bit easier than people expect, just based on it's a tough place to play. You think Notre Dame's excited about starting their season here? No, they're not. They're not excited about that. It's not going to be a fun place to play. The excitement around that football game is going to be through the roof. The excitement between Texas, the Longhorns coming to town, these are going to be 2 of the most exciting games in all college football. There's a reason why Texas A&M Notre Dame is already college game day. There's a reason behind that, because it is a very fun, exciting matchup to get the year kicked off right. People are excited. People should be excited. So I think that the only reason Texas A&M was listed here in this article by Topmeyer, and this isn't rocket science, but is because of the schedule. If they were playing, and I say this all the time, if they were playing Ole Miss on the road and at Bama and Georgia at home, instead of, Arkansas and Mississippi State and South Carolina, I wouldn't be sitting here saying any of this. I wouldn't be sitting here arguing the Aggies can win 9-10 games if all goes well. I wouldn't be saying it because that would be insane. They would not be doing that. We'd be saying, can they win 7 games? But with this schedule, the way it makes up, and it's funny because you remember you got to play the flip of this schedule next year. So you're going to have to go to Texas. You're going to have to go to Missouri. You're going to have to go to LSU. not fun places to play, not teams that are going to be super fun to play on the road. So you got to win. You got to win now. And I think that is very, very possible. And do I think the Aggies make the college football playoff? No, I don't. Do I think there's a chance? Yeah, I do. I do think there is a chance in the world they make the playoff. I do believe that. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this. I would be surprised if the Aggies made it, but crazier things have happened. So, kind of staying a little bit on this trend, I want to talk about what we believe the most important games are because, and I want to have the conversation because on Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to rank Texas A&M's top 5 games and rank them from importance, difficulty, whatever it is, and we'll have that conversation. So I want to break this down a little bit. I want to get y'all's thoughts. We'll have this conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So what I'm kind of getting at here is what are the most important games of the season. I think what I'm going to do, I'll do 2 segments, and I will break it down in most challenging, hardest games, toughest to win, and then I will break it down in importance wise. So, because I've talked about the importance of the Florida and the Auburn game being very high because they're on the road. Who's better, Notre Dame or Auburn and Florida? Notre Dame. Who's better, Missouri, Auburn or Florida? Missouri. Same trend here. Who's better, LSU, Auburn or Florida? LSU. Texas, Auburn or Florida? Texas. So, I have a feeling that, and I'm going to break this down more, and I'm going to give reasonings, but I just have this feeling that some of these games are, in some of these stretches, I mean, you have to go to Auburn and then host Texas. That's a really tough 2-game stretch. You have to go this stretch of Missouri at home, at Mississippi State, LSU at home. That's an important stretch. You have a bye week mixed in there between Missouri and Mississippi State, but still tough stretch. And then you have a bye week after the South Carolina game before the New Mexico State game. But those are tough stretches. But, I think that the schedule, I think that it works itself out nice. It's not like you're playing Notre Dame, then LSU, then Missouri. But I think this schedule works itself out nice. I think it's got good I think it's got good spacing. I think it's got good team, not so good team, good team, not so good. It's got that kind of balance to it that you have to have in a schedule. So that's great to see. But yeah, so I mean, my question here for y'all, and please leave this in the YouTube comments. How would you rank Texas A&M's and give me 2 rankings lists? Give me the 5 most important for the Aggies, important if you want to win 8, 9, 10 games. What are the most important games on the schedule? And then give me your top 5 most challenging game on the schedule. And then if you want to throw in an underrated game that we're maybe not talking enough about that we should be because it's an underrated game, let me know that in the YouTube comments as well. And that will be a conversation on either Wednesday or Thursday's show. So real quick, want to talk about baseball. Later today, we now know the Aggies are hosting, which we knew that already. We don't know what seed they are. As we said, despite the 2 and done in the SEC tournament, I think the Aggies are still a top 8 seed. I think that's pretty much locked up, like 99.9% chance. So we find out the seeds today, and then the teams that are coming into town for the regional. When we get that information, so I'm recording this the morning of the 27th, so it's not out yet. It'll be out later today. That'll be a big chunk of tomorrow's episode. We'll break that down, and we'll break this upcoming regional down all week long. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think the Aggies have a chance to win it, a very good chance to win it. So that will be our conversation coming up tomorrow on Locked On Aggies, once we know the opponents, know what seed the Aggies are, who they would play if they win their regional. We will have that conversation on tomorrow's episode. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. I hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their Monday. Have an outstanding holiday, Memorial Day. Always say, remember what it means. And hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today, and we will see you tomorrow.